Good morning from Canada. I'm Joanna, and this is a self-development or student development conversation. I'll just wait a few moments for people to join and find the link. And feel free today, if you wish, to have a pen and paper if you want to take any notes. And also feel free to add comments below. This is a super interesting topic and super personal, teacher to teacher, and also very dependent on your experience in the yoga world. So it will be very interesting to hear people's points of view. So the topic today is preserving energy as a yoga teacher. And I myself will be speaking from some personal experiences. I am 6.5 years a teacher now. So I have experienced different studio settings, different community spaces, teaching online, teaching privates, teaching at workshops and retreats, as well as regular weekly public classes. And I've also been holding down multiple jobs, not always solely a full-time yoga teacher. So I'm going to be talking from experience and what I've learned and noticed on my journey. But as I said, if you have your own experiences to share, please leave your comments below. It's a super interesting topic. So again, my name's Joanna. I am a Your Yoga Flow teacher, faculty member, and alumni student. And today's topic for our conversation is preserving your energy as a yoga teacher. So we'll get going. We're going to start by asking the question, what does this mean, preserving your energy? Now, as we know, as yoga teachers, our role is to show up fully and authentically and to hold space for our students. We are of service to the students so that they can explore their bodies, their emotions, and their thoughts. We show up as guides to them. And it is powerful and transformative work. And as teachers, if we are not showing up fully, authentically, and with structure to our classes, with strong intention, this can leave our students feeling unfulfilled or unsatisfied, and also ourselves. So the goal is always to show up and teach a heartfelt, fully authentic practice each and every time. However, if we are not careful, this can lead to feeling depleted, drained, or simply uninspired, as we continuously give our energy outwards without potentially replenishing it. And that has a shelf life, and it is vital for us to recognize that and to take measures to find balance of giving and receiving energy in order to best serve ourselves and our communities and to maintain longevity as teachers. So how does this happen? How do we end up in a place of depletion or burnout or feeling unmotivated or uninspired? This feeling can happen truly at any time during our journeys as yoga teachers. In the beginning of our yoga teaching journey, we are often very, very keen to say yes to all opportunities that come our way for us to practice our teaching. And we're also full of energy and beans and life and knowledge, and we want to share that far and wide. And that is amazing. And I would highly recommend saying yes do as many things as you can in the beginning, as long as it is within your capacity, because it's a great way to drop away any of that excess nervousness or self-doubt or self-talk that you might be having as a teacher. It's a great way to shake that off, really get some ground roots experience, working in different settings with different bodies. It's a great way to really find out and hone who you are as a teacher. But as your journey continues and you start to recognize when you want to teach, like certain times of the day perhaps work better for you, the amount of classes that you can commit to authentically, the styles of practice you wish to teach. This will all evolve as you go on your journey. But it's really important that we continue to do that work to check in, to make sure that everything is still feeling okay, we're still feeling steady, we're still feeling like we can maintain what we've set out to do. So this feeling of burnout or depletion, as I said, it can happen at any time during our yoga journey, and depending on the individual teacher and their specific situation. Sometimes it can come because we've taken on too many commitments and we're struggling to fulfill them all, especially if you have multiple jobs, a family to support, perhaps you're a caregiver, perhaps you have health concerns of your own. And it can happen when we say yes to teaching too many classes, workshops, or retreats without having the time and the space to recharge in between those offerings. It can also happen due to financial strain, or because of the high expectations that we put on ourselves. So there are many reasons why this happens and why it happens at different times during our yoga teaching journey. Speaking from personal experience, I have experienced this burnout. And for me, it came at a time when I was teaching between 12 and 15 in-person classes a week, as well as holding down a second part-time job. And also then on the weekends, opting to teach a workshop, maybe. So I was probably working 6 days a week, just with that one day to fully kind of decompress. And it was fine for a while, but I slowly started to notice I was getting stagnant. I was getting to a point where I was ticking off the classes each week, and I could tell I was in need of replenishment. I wasn't practicing as often as I used to because I didn't have the time. And that was making a huge difference to my teaching. So I really had to pull back and reassess and establish a new routine. And funnily enough, because of COVID and a lot of physical studio spaces either closing their doors or reducing their schedules, I was forced into a place of re-establishing a new way of being, a new way of teaching, a new schedule. And now, as the world is starting to open up again, I'm finding that I am saying no. And I have established an ideal that I will teach a lot less public classes per week. I'm teaching a little more online, and I'm still teaching workshops and retreats. But I've also managed to now bring myself into a financial position where I've been able to drop away that secondary income stream, that secondary job, which is making a huge difference to the amount of time, space, and energy I have to show up in my teaching. So that's just a little bit of my story. and why I'm so interested in this topic. So that also leads me to tell you that I discovered on my journey that having a practice of my own is absolutely key. Going to classes as a student is absolutely key to my motivation, inspiration as a yoga teacher. I gather so much wisdom going to other people's classes, moving my own body, tapping into my own intuition again, and that really fills up my cup. And also finding time to get really still and quiet and be in solitude is also a way I find personally to recharge and replenish. So now those are non-negotiables in my schedule. If I am going to be teaching, I also have to make time in the day to either practice myself or be in solitude to replenish, ready for the next offering. Does that make sense? Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is what signs to look out for. What are the signs of burnout or lack of energy? So one of the main red flags would be fatigue, a lack of energy, stagnation, lethargy, um, feeling uninspired in your teaching or unmotivated to teach, or finding it difficult to come up with new class content. Those can also be signals that you're needing to recharge. Making excuses or finding ways to get out of your teaching commitments. That's a big red flag. That's a big sign to look out for. And maybe it's your mood, noticing your mood, noticing your level of patience, your temper, your tolerance, your ability to communicate and connect with your students in a positive and authentic way. And noticing if you're present. Are you present when you're teaching? Are you present before and after your classes? Are you present when you are curating your classes? So those are all signs to look out for, and they may be telling you that it is time to have another look at your schedule. I'm just going to flip my notes here. One moment. Okay, like I said, if you have any questions or any comments or any feedback, any personal experiences you wish to share about this topic, please let me know and let me see your comments. I'm going to move on now to talk about honoring time. This is a big way that you can preserve your energy as a teacher, is respecting and honoring time. Time of your students, time of the space that you are hosting your class, workshop, event in, and the time of yourself as a teacher. So what I mean by this is basically creating healthy boundaries and deciding for yourself how available you make yourself to your students in those spaces before and after your classes or events. How much time are you available to take questions, to listen, to share? Because when we're in the seat of the teacher, whether it's for an hour, 90 minutes, 2-hour workshop, a full day retreat, the whole time you are in the seat of the teacher, you are exerting huge amounts of output, huge amounts of outward energy. And so those pockets of time before and after class can get a little blurry. The lines between how available we make ourselves can get blurry. And if we're not careful, we can end up staying for an hour after a practice, after a class, speaking with a student who has concerns or questions, or simply wants to share experiences with you. And then that continues to be an output energy for you and may end up leaving you in a place of depletion. This brings me on to the point that as yoga teachers, we are not therapists, we are not psychologists, we are not medical professionals. So sometimes these questions that get brought to us after or before class, we can redirect to these professionals that would be able to answer the questions in more depth and with more knowledge than we can. And that can also help us manage our time, because we can decide that maybe before class we're available for 15 minutes beforehand to check in with students, ask about injuries or any health concerns that we might need to know about. And then the same at the end of the class, perhaps you make yourself available for 15 minutes to answer any questions relating to that practice. So getting very clear on time management will really help you to hone how much output energy you are giving to each offering. And that also has been learned through experience, because there was one time when I was working at a yoga studio, as well as working, as I mean, I was hosting at the front desk, as well as teaching in that space. So it's very tricky to create that healthy boundary, because I would come out of teaching a class and then go immediately onto the front desk to serve patrons. And students that have maybe taken my class would then want to stay and connect and chat. And because I was on the desk, it was very difficult to wrap that up, to bring that to a close. So I had to really look and think about how I was going to try and create those boundaries. So that was an interesting lesson for me on my journey. Be reminded of the practice of the yama astaya, which is non-stealing, to help empower you to set healthy boundaries for yourself and for your classes. It's not being selfish. It's not showing empathy or not caring about your students. It is creating a service. You are giving a service to your students, but you're also watching yourself. If you want to have longevity as a teacher, you have to watch yourself. So just honor the time and know that there could be a tendency for there to be some stealing of time and energy if you're not careful. Was there anything else on that point? Yeah, so just basically you decide how available you make yourself to your students before and after your class, and that will really help you in creating those healthy boundaries. Okay, so the last section I have here is on self-care and self-preservation practices and tools. So the things that we can do to replenish and recharge. And this is very, very personal. And so I just want you to think about the things that really refresh you, that energize you, that inspire you, that help you to anchor and ground. That might be a person, it might be a place, it might be a book, a pet, a ritual, a practice. Whatever it is, continue to find ways to thread as much of that as you can into your schedule and make it as important as your teaching commitments. So whether it's a walk in nature, whether it's sitting in silence, whether it's taking a yoga class as a student, perhaps it's enhancing your knowledge as a teacher through books or courses. Whatever it looks like, make it a necessary priority, as it could really support your longevity as a yoga teacher and enhance your ability to show up as fully and as best you can each and every time you step into the seat of the teacher. And not only that, but if you are continuing to get re-inspired by nature, by silence, by people, by reading, taking classes, you are just going to continue not only to fill up your tank of energy, but also your tank of knowledge that then you can overspill and share with your students. And so then that just becomes this beautiful transaction, beautiful energy exchange. You'll feel that love and gratitude coming back from your students as you share all this wisdom with excitement and interest. So the main thing is just to continue to check in with yourself and be really honest with yourself. Know that it is okay to say no to opportunities if you're feeling like you are at your capacity. Get comfortable with making changes to your schedule to continue to best serve you and your ability to hold space and to grow as a teacher. What serves you now as a teacher may not serve you in the same way in 6 months' time, especially if you are a brand new teacher and, like I said at the very beginning of this, you're saying yes to lots of opportunities, voluntary teaching, teaching in community spaces, teaching to small groups, maybe park classes. You're trying to grab a hold of as many different ways of sharing your teaching and gaining experience as possible. And I absolutely commend that. And I think that is a great place to start. But do as you move through that first year of teaching, if that's where you're at, continue to see whether all those classes you said yes to at the beginning are still working for you as you're growing. And then I think we can kind of encapsulate this whole thing by talking about balance. Basically, you want to find that balance of giving and receiving of energy. So please make sure that self-care and self-preservation practices are a necessity, an essential part of your rituals. And that is not a selfish act at all. It is a very necessary one in order for you to keep showing up as your best self with energy, with light, with passion, with enthusiasm, and with lots of pearls of wisdom to share. So I hope all that was useful and wasn't a lot of rambling. I would love to hear from you. So if anyone has any questions or experiences of how they preserve their energy, perhaps, or experiences of burning out, maybe even not in your yoga teaching role yet, maybe in another area of your life, have you experienced that, and what did you do to reestablish balance? I think it's something that we all go through at some point in our lives, maybe multiple times in our lives. It's a lesson that is shown to us. And I know personally for me, I have had very, very high expectations of myself as a yoga teacher. And I'd really kind of set this idea of what it should look like. And it was honestly just not attainable. It's not, it wasn't manageable for me in the long run. And maybe for some teachers, they can teach 15 to 20 classes a week and do that for years on end. You know, I know teachers who teach strong vinyasa classes or hot classes, and that is their schedule week to week to week, and they're doing that consistently, and they're still showing up full of life, full of energy, full of beans. And that's amazing. But everybody is on their personal journey. So I just commend you to be very honest and true with yourself, and make choices that serve you. Hi, Tina. I've been thinking how I just don't rest. So this is great stuff. Oh, yes, girl, rest up. We are constantly on the hamster wheel. And I think this is very poignant right now because where we are anyway in British Columbia, the world is definitely starting to open up a lot more since COVID-19 and the last year and a half. And so I'm already starting to see, I'm speaking to people and they're like, they have a lot of apprehension and worry about September because schools are back in session, their work is exploding, yoga studios are increasing their classes, people want to go on retreats again and do workshops again. And so people's plates are getting a lot fuller. So this is a really key time to check in and notice what you said yes to or what you're contemplating saying yes to for the next season, and just really understanding and kind of projecting what that might look like for you 6 weeks in or 3 months in. Are you still going to be able to maintain that and show up? And if not, if you don't think it's possible, that's okay. That is okay. Make sure you prioritize rest. Yes. This discussion has been immensely valuable and truly applicable to all areas of life. I work in an athletic club at the front desk and newly as a HIIT teacher and soon to be yoga teacher. The issue of boundaries and time has been something I deal with regularly, and your input is so helpful. Thank you. Oh, that's so nice, Nicole. And I can definitely relate to working on a front desk in a yoga studio, like I said. It'll be a great place for you to really work on those healthy boundaries so that when you do step into your role as a yoga teacher, they're already established and you're confident in them. So yeah, that's a great place to gain some good experience. And being a HIIT teacher too, obviously that exerts huge amounts of energy. So I'm sure you're already discovering what your ways to replenish are. So I think it's just acknowledging that we're allowed to rest and we're allowed to replenish ourselves as teachers, and that, like I said, it's not selfish, it's absolutely essential. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, sending love. Enjoy some rest. Bye.